This is Dan the Manufactured Home Man here today, and I am with Lindsay and I'm with Wendy. And about 3 or 4 days ago, I was out looking at properties, and the owner of our company called me and said that a really sweet, nice lady had called him and told him an amazing story about Solitaire and what her house had gone through. And she lives in Vidor, Texas. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Vidor is just east of Houston and experiences a lot of, when the hurricanes come, they get the brunt of a lot of that stuff that comes off the coast. And her house has actually experienced 3 different hurricanes. And we're going to include some amazing pictures. There's one picture with a canoe in the living room to tell you how deep the water got. So anyway, tell me what you experienced, what you saw when you went to look at your house, Wendy.
Well, we were in it when the hurricane came through, and there's pictures of how the water level was rising in the yard, and we decided that we just bought new cars, that we would get the cars out because the road floods. So let's just take a change of clothes and leave.
Yeah. And
we went back the next day, and we were already in. We had to park down the street. Lindsay and I had to swim in.
Oh my!
Down our road, and the water was just to the top of the deck because we had to climb up on the deck.
It wasn't in the house yet.
It wasn't in the house yet. So the house was like 4 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, we picked things up and put them on the bed just in case. But he said, you want to take anything else? And I said, no, because if water gets in this house, Vidor will be underwater.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know that Vidor, because when they opened up the dams, the hurricane was gone by this time.
Yeah.
So they opened up the dams in Jasper and whatever, and all those dams, that water is what came down and flooded us.
Why did they open the dams?
Because they didn't open them during the hurricane. It was how many inches of rain fell? 60? Yeah, almost 80 inches of water.
Okay, and the reason they opened them up was because the dam could break?
Right. So instead of opening them early, they waited and held it back. And so then they just had to open all of them. There's 3. They had to open all. And it was just, they told us nothing. We just started hearing helicopters. And a friend of ours was with the emergency response, and he's like, it's going to be catastrophic, and we can't even tell you. Just get out. So Lindsay and I went back to the house, and that by that time is when there was water in the house up to about their waist.
Oh my!
And we had a canoe and a little kayak in my living room, and then by that time it was up to the counters.
Oh my!
But they got out, and when we got back in the house 3 months later, the water line was to the top of the windows.
They said to get that after we left that last time.
They said don't go back.
They'd be looking for a 6-foot wall of water coming down.
Oh my!
Yeah, and the water changed, so you could see the hurricane water even in the pictures. It's nice and clear and rainy. Rainwater clear, and the sky was gorgeous coming out in the canoe of the house. The sky's beautiful. But when that flood water came, it was black and it smelled and it was just. And so when we came back 3 months later, our house had sat there
for 3 months.
For 3 months closed up, but it was
amazing.
The mold was on my furniture. We had hurricane stuff everywhere. That the refrigerator floated up and tipped over.
Oh no!
The freezer full of meat floated up and tipped over. We couldn't get it out of our washroom because it blocked in the door. There was a window that was broken. We had dead animals. We had snakes in the house. So in November, we started tearing the house down, and we took it to outside walls and studs.
Yeah. And
the floor, everybody told us that it would be. They totaled it. Insurance came and totaled it.
They said there'd be no floor left.
Right. But our floor was solid as a rock. The walls didn't even have a lot of mold on them. There's pictures of our insulation in our house where we were floored, because even the insulation doesn't look like it was wet and gummy. It still looked pretty new in places. So we were just flabbergasted that it was in the shape it was in. It was crazy.
Well, Solitaire builds, and I was telling Wendy this earlier, and as we walked out, we looked at the cutaway, but we use a 4-inch screw and about 30 gallons of Gorilla Glue in one of those single section homes. And if you glue and you screw the studs together, the wind can't blow your roof off, and if the roof don't blow off, then the walls will stay intact. And if you use a really good grade of solid sanded and floated plywood, it can get wet.
And
It can get wet and it doesn't rot out.
And it didn't even mold.
Yeah,
It was molded.
Any other kind of laminate flooring, any kind of OSB, any kind of Novadeck would have been gone. So a little extra money up front for a Solitaire pays off in the end.
Last. Yeah, it's gonna last.
Built to last 70 or 80 years. So we just appreciate you guys so much for coming up and talking to us about this today.